A big, fat, stinky slob of a monster man chases a bunch of dumb teens who trespass on his daddy's property. And he's got an entire hog slaughtering facility full of toys to play with. Sausage salutations and gristle greetings, my minced meat malcontents. I've got more of yesterday's yucks coming back up to once again leave an acidic taste in the back of our throats. Today we revisit 1987's pork product picture, Slaughterhouse. A stinky cinematic serving that ends up being a lot more fun than you'd think. So let's take a trip on down to that kill floor and see what Abraxas has on the slab.
We have 10 dead bodies, 1 dead cat, boo! 23 cups blood, 0 naked breasts, numerous piggy nipples, numerous piggy grunts, slaughterhouse stock footage, dead animal art, giant cleaver to the face, 1 handectomy, 1 hand crushed skull, 1 car tire crushed skull, 1 slit throat, 2 splitting headaches, implied giant cleaver kill, skinning knife to the fingertip, meat rack to the back, knife to the back, gunshot to the chest. I'm gonna check this out cliche, ominous approaching thunderstorm cliche, gratuitous wacky radio DJ, answering machine dependent plot, 1 David Letterman t-shirt, deputy cosplayery, 1 sweat shower, and 200 pounds, more or less, ground man meat.
Slaughterhouse is an 80s slasher flick that doesn't do much that we haven't seen before, but it still manages to be a fairly good time, even in spite of the fact that it begins with a quote from Benjamin Franklin. The basic story is the old butcher in town sees his run-down meat processing facility foreclosed by the bank, and he's being forced out of the way for newer, more modern, profitable ways.
You young hot dogs are all alike. You know, Sanford, I could do with 20 good men what you have to do with 100.
Just hold on,
And
Lester.
I'd never allow 30% fat.
Angered by the perceived lack of appreciation for what he and his plant did for the town in the past, Lester Bacon decides to take the leash off of his dim-wit psychotic son, and the bodies hit the floor, and the bodies hit the floor, and the bodies hit the floor. Unfortunately, Buddy Bacon, his actual name, BT Dubs, has a Jason Voorhees-level appetite for destruction, and Daddy's enemies alone aren't enough for our overachieving psychopath. He adds the town's dumb teenagers to his hit list because of course he does. Basically, anybody dumb enough to trespass in Buddy's happy place finds themselves on a meat hook in the abandoned slaughterhouse. And thanks to the Mayberry-style attitude of the local cops, it takes the very limited law enforcement an awful long time to get involved. Which basically means our final girl is completely on her own once she realizes, all too late, that she's in a world of pig shit. As I've already said, Slaughterhouse doesn't do anything new, even by 1987 standards, but it still remains a good little slasher that doesn't take itself too seriously. While it doesn't exactly cross over into parody territory, it does dip its toe into the silly well for some good time levity. My personal favorite is when Buddy takes the uniform and cruiser keys from the freshly killed deputy and has himself a little joyride.
Yeah, what do we got? Another citizen who isn't ready for some football.
But when it comes down to the horror, Slaughterhouse straightens up and flies right. There's a fair bit of gore, but things don't get too intense, really. There are a few moments that could have pushed the envelope if they wanted, but it still comes off as satisfying. The cast is generally more likable than not, including the antagonists. Lester and Buddy here actually come off a little sympathetic in their story. I mean, who can't relate to falling on hard times and finding themselves trapped in the wheels of the cold, unfeeling machine of progress? But that machine itself isn't exactly the enemy either. The bank representative isn't the standard penny-pinching miser, taking joy in destroying lives for profit. He actually feels sorry for Lester and tries to make things as easy as possible for him. And the new butcher has his own vision in bringing the facility into modern compliance, bringing hundreds of jobs to the town again. He's frustrated that Lester is slowing the process, but his ultimate intentions aren't exactly malicious. Heck, he even makes Lester an offer that includes letting him and Buddy remain on the property and offers him a consultant job as well. As for the teens, well, they're kind of standard issue meat for the grinder. Literally in this sense. They aren't overly annoying or douchey, they're just kids being kids. Unfortunately, that comes with the youthful idea that trespassing for fun is totally okay. And that's where some of the best moments of non-gore horror come into play. The Slaughterhouse is Buddy's home turf. It's his personal playground. He knows every nook and cranny. So when the kids come snooping around, he's there every step of the way, watching from every vantage point. Which leads to one of my absolute favorite shots from this film. Towards the end of the movie, the kids play a little hide and seek during a storm. The only time they realize a killer is on the loose is when they become the victim themselves. At one point, Liz is quietly looking for her friends, totally unaware that Buddy is there and slowly picking them off. And that's when we get this magnificent shot.
Annie! Yeah! Buzz!
I friggin' love this shot. He's right there, in plain sight, dragging her boyfriend's corpse. We see it, but we also see that she doesn't see it thanks to Buddy's home court advantage. It's like that scene in Friday the 13th Part 7 when Jason is hiding in the corner and we only see him when the lightning flashes. And yet, even though he's in plain sight, almost 40 years later, most people admit they never saw him until someone else pointed it out. Myself included. Depending on how you feel about slasher flicks, Slaughterhouse may not be your thing. But I found it a fun little romp and am very sad that it took 35 years before I had even heard of it, let alone seen it. It deserves a little more love than that, but I totally understand how a single movie could get lost in the oversaturated slasher genre that we saw in the 80s. My only real complaint is the absolute lack of any skin. We get a few teenage makeout sessions and even a little tiny addition of the deputy hooking up with a gal, but there's no skin whatsoever. Well, unless you count the naked piggies heading for the kill floor during the opening credit sequence. And I don't. I'm a pervert, not a degenerate. But if you twisted my arm to come up with a second complaint, it's that this movie is slow to get going. Like, say about 40 minutes to establish the players. After that, it keeps a pretty solid pace all the way through to the end credits. I kind of mentioned it a little earlier, but I will give a definite warning to some of our more sensitive viewers. The opening credit sequence is actual footage from a working slaughterhouse. So if the idea of watching the process that takes living piggies and turns them into mechanically separated meat bothers you, or you think you might be bothered by it, then go ahead and be ready to skip the opening segment. Absolutely no shame coming from me either. I mean, I grew up in the Farm Belt, so I'm used to seeing the animals that would eventually end up on my dinner plate. But if that's not something you want to see, I get it. And I'll always try to give you a heads up. Other than that, though, there is a little bit of prop work that I think does include actual dead animals. It's hard to say. Be careful with this one if you're sensitive to that sort of stuff. Anyway, add this one to your playlist with my exuberant recommendations and have some stupid fun for 85 minutes. I'll even go so far as to say this one would pair nicely with something like Hack-O-Lantern if you're looking for a double feature of fun underdog slasher flicks. And I'm thrilled to say I just recently learned the long awaited sequel to this one finally got made last year. Slaughterhouse 2, Death Metal.
Oh my God, what have you done?
So watch for that review coming soon to a basement near you. Well, I suppose I've hammed it up for long enough, kiddies. Time to say goodbye for now. But never fear, trash is always near. There's always more to see in that cinematic trash heap, and I'll have another bilious bite soon enough. Until then, this is your sticky, slap-happy sicko Sugarpants. See you in your dreams.
This little pig went to market. This little pig stayed home. This little pig had roast beef. And this little pig had none. And this little pig ran wee all the way home.